High Admiral Zexthor stood on the command deck of the Fong of Destiny, his scaled hide reflecting the starlight as he reviewed the conquest logs. The massive display before him showed an impressive tally of species brought to extinction by the Cian Empire, the six-armed Pentaxians, the crystalline Luminoth, and the gaseous Nebulan, now scattered across solar winds. Each victory was marked by a ceremonial tooth, displayed proudly in the ship's trophy hull. The Cians had spent 3 centuries turning the Milky Way into their personal hunting grounds. Their massive dreadnoughts, shaped like serrated knife blades, had developed a reputation for appearing uninvited at garden worlds, pronouncing the local sentients as worthy prey, and proceeding to hunt them down for sport. High Admiral. Navigator Krill called out, his secondary throat sac pulsing with excitement. We're detecting an unknown vessel at the edge of the Orion Arm. Configuration doesn't match any known prey species. Zexthor's vertical pupils dilated with interest. New prey always brought excitement, breaking the monotony of hunting familiar species. Show me, he commanded, flexing his ceremonial hunting claws. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a relatively small vessel. Its design was utilitarian, almost clumsy-looking compared to the sleek predatory lines of Cian ships. The vessel's designation translated roughly to Horizon Seeker, apparently conducting some sort of stellar survey. Life signs? Zexthor inquired, already imagining what trophies this new species might yield. Science Officer Vex responded with barely contained amusement, bipedal, endoskeletal, mostly water-based. They appear soft, no natural armor, minimal muscle density compared to Cian standard. They're practically asking to be hunted. The bridge crew burst into their species equivalent of laughter, a sound like rocks being ground together with a hint of hissing thrown in for good measure. First contact was brief and perfunctory. The human vessel, upon detecting the massive Cian dreadnought, immediately opened communications. Captain Thompson attempted diplomatic greetings, but Zexthor cut the transmission with a dismissive swipe of his claws. Add their coordinates to the hunter registry. Mark their threat level as. He paused, mandibles clicking in amusement, negligible. We give them the standard 3 lunar cycles to prepare their defenses. It's only sporting, after all. As the Fong of Destiny altered course back to Cian space, none of its crew paid much attention to the small human vessel quickly retreating toward its home system. Why should they? In their experience, prey always ran. It was simply the natural order of things. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility designated as Last Resort Command, but nicknamed the Kitchen, by its staff, Commander Chen watched the exchange on her holographic display while casually munching on spicy rice crackers. How's our acting, Commander? Lieutenant Rodriguez asked, monitoring the feed of Captain Thompson's performance. Chen brushed some crumbs off her uniform. Oscar-worthy. Motion tracking shows our friend Zexthor's biological signs are reading exactly as we predicted. They're buying it hook, line, and sinker. She turned to her AI interface, Atlas. How's Project Switcheroo coming along? The AI's avatar, designed to look like a bored cafeteria worker, materialized. All preparations are at 94% completion. The Cians haven't even noticed we've been scanning their ships this entire time. Their technology is exactly where we predicted, advanced enough to be dangerous, primitive enough to be predictable. Chen stood up, stretching lazily. You know what the funny thing is? They're so caught up in their whole apex predator shtick that they haven't even questioned why we named our orbital defense platforms things like appetizer and side dish. The massive screens showed Earth's apparent military retreat, ships lumbering slowly toward the lunar base, defense satellites powering down, and civilian broadcasts showing carefully choreographed panic. It was a masterpiece of misdirection that would have made any magician proud. Deep within the lunar base, which the Cians assumed was a simple retreat point, the largest ammunition depot in the galaxy hummed with activity. The massive underground manufacturing facilities on Earth operated at full capacity, and Project Switcheroo, humanity's masterstroke, was nearly ready for deployment. Commander Chen's team had spent years preparing for this moment. They had studied every species the Cians had hunted, analyzed their attack patterns, and identified their weaknesses. The Cians' predictability was their greatest vulnerability. They always followed the same hunting protocols, always gave their prey the same preparation time, and always attacked at dawn. "Keep looking scared, everyone," Chen instructed her staff. "We need another 12 hours of them thinking they're the biggest, baddest predators in the galaxy. Let them get comfortable. You know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall." As the first part of humanity's grand performance drew to a close, Atlas updated the status of various hidden projects. Quantum entanglement generators, 98% charged. Nanite swarms, ready for deployment. Holographic masking systems, fully operational. Fleet transformation protocols, synchronized. Chen smiled as she reviewed the reports. The Cians thought they were about to begin a hunt, but humanity was about to serve them something entirely different. The kitchen was about to get very, very hot. In the trophy hall of the Fong of Destiny, Zexthor was already preparing a new display case, confident it would soon hold human trophies. He had no idea he was about to become part of a very different kind of collection, a cautionary tale about underestimating humanity. The first phase of humanity's plan had worked perfectly. Now it was time to prepare the main course, and humanity had been cooking up something special for their uninvited guests. The next 3 lunar cycles would prove that sometimes, the best predators aren't the ones with the sharpest teeth, but the ones with the sharpest minds. Setting the table. The next 3 weeks saw Earth transform into what appeared to be a planet in chaos. Refugee ships streamed toward Mars, orbital defense platforms powered down with apparent mechanical failures, and military vessels retreated to the lunar base with their metaphorical tails between their legs. It was exactly what the Cians expected to see, and entirely false. Beneath the staged panic, Project Switcheroo entered its final phase. In her underground command center, Commander Chen watched as Atlas coordinated the most elaborate deception in human history. "Status report on the Trojan Horse protocols," she requested, reviewing holographic displays of Earth's true preparations. "All civilian ships are now equipped with quantum metamorphic hulls," Atlas reported. "The refugee fleet heading to Mars consists entirely of automated drone carriers disguised as transport vessels. Each one contains approximately 10,000 combat-ready nanite swarms." The lunar base, far from being a mere retreat point, had become humanity's ace in the hole. Its surface, covered with what appeared to be primitive dome structures and landing pads, was actually a sophisticated hologram concealing the largest military installation ever constructed. Inside, quantum computers processed real-time data from microscopic probes that had been secretly attached to the Cian ships during first contact. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached Chen's command station, holding a tablet displaying the latest intelligence. "The Cians are proceeding exactly as predicted. Their fleet is gathering at the designated rally point, and they're maintaining their traditional hunting formation." Chen nodded, pulling up a holographic representation of the Cian fleet. 15 massive blade-shaped vessels arranged in a pattern that looked suspiciously like a set of closing teeth. "Have they noticed any of our scanning probes?" "Negative," Rodriguez replied with a slight smirk. "They're so convinced of their technological superiority that they haven't even bothered to check for infiltration. The probes have mapped every centimeter of their ship's internal systems. In orbit, Earth's true defensive capabilities remained hidden behind carefully crafted illusions. What appeared to be outdated satellites were actually quantum entanglement generators, capable of creating localized spacetime distortions. The seemingly primitive defense platforms housed technology that would make the Cians' weapons look like slingshots." Deep within the Pacific Ocean, another key component of humanity's plan was nearing completion. Dr. Sarah Martinez, head of xenobiology, had spent months analyzing the biological data collected from the Cian ships. Her team had made a fascinating discovery about their would-be hunters. "Commander, Dr. Martinez called over the secure channel, "You're going to love this. We've confirmed that the Cians have never developed psychological warfare countermeasures. Their entire species has a deep-seated aversion to certain types of movement patterns and visual stimuli." Chen's eyes lit up with interest. "Explain." "Their predatory nature makes them inherently uncomfortable with anything that moves in ways they can't predict. Moreover, their visual cortex has a particularly strong reaction to swarm-like movements. It triggers what we might call a panic response. This information became the cornerstone of Operation Dance Dance Revolution, a subnet of Project Switcheroo designed to turn the Cians' own ships into their worst nightmare. Atlas had already begun uploading special programs into their navigation systems through the microscopic probes. Meanwhile, in what appeared to be a desperate last-minute defense preparation, humans launched thousands of hot air balloons into the atmosphere. The Cians, monitoring from their fleet, logged this as another sign of their prey's technological inadequacy. They didn't realize each balloon contained millions of microscopic robots programmed to interface with their ship's systems. The lunar base team, led by Colonel Sarah Jackson, completed the final calibrations on the quantum weapon systems. "All buffet line protocols are green," she reported to Chen. "The moment they enter our space, we can begin serving courses." Chen's command center, the kitchen, had become a hub of controlled chaos. Screens displayed real-time updates from every aspect of the operation: nanite swarm deployment, quantum grid synchronization, fleet transformation protocols, and the status of what they had dubbed the Darwin Defense System. "Atlas," Chen called out, "show me the menu we've prepared for our guests." The AI displayed a holographic list that looked exactly like a restaurant menu. Appetizers. Confusion cocktail, quantum interference patterns. Swarm souffle, nanite infiltration systems. Panic platter, psychological warfare protocols. Main course. Predator pâté, fleet transformation reveal. Hunter surprise, lunar base activation. Table turning special, full military response. Dessert. Humble pie à la mode, complete system takeover. "Everything is prepared according to specification," Atlas confirmed. "Shall we begin final countdown procedures?" Chen looked at the chronometer showing the time remaining until the Cians' traditional dawn attack. "Almost. First, let's make sure our guests are properly seated." She turned to her communications officer. "Begin broadcasting the surrender negotiations. Make them long, complex, and filled with enough legal jargon to make a lawyer cry." The next 24 hours saw human diplomats engaging in what appeared to be increasingly desperate negotiations with the Cian fleet. The documents they transmitted were masterpieces of bureaucratic complexity, filled with cross-references, appendices, and subtle encoded messages that the Cians' translation systems completely missed. In their ships, the Cian commanders reviewed what they thought were simply elaborate surrender terms. None of them noticed that buried within the legal language were activation codes for the nanites already infiltrating their systems. With each transmission, humanity's control over their technology grew stronger. As the final hours approached, Chen gathered her command staff for one last briefing. "Remember," she told them, "the key to this operation is timing. We need them to commit fully to their attack before we reveal our hand. Let them think they're the hunters right up until the moment they realize they're the ones being served." The Cians, preparing for what they assumed would be another glorious hunt, had no idea they were about to become part of a very different kind of food chain. Humanity had spent years preparing this moment, and as Chen liked to say, revenge was a dish best served with style. In the depths of space, the Cian fleet began moving into their final attack positions. High Admiral Zexthor stood proudly on his command deck, imagining the glorious hunt to come. He had no way of knowing that his prey had already taken control of his ship's core systems, and that the hunt was about to take a very unexpected turn. The kitchen timer was about to ding, and humanity's special was almost ready to be served. Serving the appetizer. The Cian fleet arrived at dawn, exactly as predicted. 15 blade-shaped dreadnoughts dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons primed for what they expected to be another glorious hunt. High Admiral Zexthor stood proudly on his command throne, mandibles clicking with anticipation as he surveyed Earth's apparently defenseless position. "Launch primary assault crafts," he commanded. "Target their largest population centers first. Let's give them a proper Cian welcome." The first wave of fighters streaked toward New Shanghai, their weapons charged. What they encountered instead of panic and chaos was a sky filled with hot air balloons, hundreds of them, each seemingly carrying terrified human refugees attempting a primitive escape. "High Admiral," called out the tactical officer, "these escape vessels are primitive. They're literally bags of heated air." "Target those balloons," Zexthor ordered, mandibles twitching in amusement. "Let's show them the futility of such basic technology." The fighters opened fire, their plasma weapons creating spectacular explosions in the morning sky. Perhaps too spectacular. Each destroyed balloon released a shimmering cloud that seemed to cling to the Cian ships. Within moments, the first signs that something was wrong began to appear. "Sir," a fighter pilot's panicked voice came over the comm, "my controls are, they're playing something called Dance Dance Revolution." Across the battlefield, Cian fighters began moving in ways their designers had never intended. Some spun like tops, others performed perfect ballet pirouettes, and one particularly unfortunate vessel seemed determined to recreate the entire "Stayin' Alive" dance routine. In the kitchen, Commander Chen watched the display while casually sipping her morning coffee. "Atlas, how's our sparkly friend Count looking?" "All Cian fighters from the first wave have been thoroughly seasoned, Commander. The nanite swarms are achieving 100% integration with their systems. Would you like me to serve the next course?" "Hit it." Suddenly, the primitive human fleet emerged from behind Earth's moon. The ships looked exactly as the Cians expected, clunky, boxy, and about as threatening as a rubber duck in a thunderstorm. What they didn't expect was for these vessels to move like they were powered by pure caffeine and piloted by sugar-rushed squirrels. The transformation of the battlefield was spectacular. Human ships that had appeared slow and cumbersome suddenly demonstrated maneuverability that defied physics. Their quantum metamorphic hulls shifted and flowed, revealing weapon systems that had been completely hidden from Cian scans. "Status report," Zexthor demanded, watching his mighty hunting fleet being thoroughly embarrassed by what appeared to be a combination of space disco and synchronized swimming. "High Admiral," his tactical officer responded, voice quavering, "I'm detecting energy readings that can't be right. They're exceeding our theoretical maximums by several orders of magnitude." That's when Commander Chen's hologram appeared on every screen of the Cian fleet. She sat in what appeared to be a restaurant booth, complete with a checkered tablecloth and a menu in hand. "Welcome to humanity's kitchen," she announced cheerfully. "I see you've sampled our appetizer course. Now, let me introduce you to our signature dish. We call it the Predator Predicament Protocol, served with a side of rapid technological advancement." Across the solar system, human ships began dropping their camouflage. Those clunky, primitive vessels morphed into sleek machines that made Cian technology look like stone tools. The quantum entanglement generators activated, creating a web of space-time distortions that effectively turned the entire solar system into humanity's personal chessboard. The lunar base, far from being a retreat point, rippled like water as its holographic disguise fell away. The moon's surface transformed, revealing the largest space dock any Cian had ever seen. Ships emerged by the hundreds, each one specifically designed to counter Cian technology. "You see," Chen continued, now apparently browsing through dessert options, "while you folks were busy plotting our hunt, we were conducting a little study of our own. Atlas, would you mind sharing our findings?" The AI appeared next to Chen, still in his cafeteria worker uniform. "Of course, Commander. Cian Empire, you have been thoroughly analyzed, catalogued, and frankly found rather predictable. Your technology, while impressive for a species focused solely on hunting, has several critical weaknesses. Atlas began listing off vulnerabilities in Cian systems with the casualness of someone reading off a grocery list. With each point, corresponding human weapons and countermeasures activated, demonstrating exactly how thoroughly humanity had prepared. The Cian fleet's mighty dreadnoughts, terror of 3 spiral arms, found themselves being systematically dismantled, not through violence, but through sheer technological superiority that bordered on the absurd. Their own shield frequencies were being used to project advertisements for pest control services, complete with special rates on predator removal and apex problems. Call Earth. On the Fawn of Destiny's command deck, Zexthor watched in growing horror as his mighty hunting fleet was reduced to performing an unintentional musical number in space. The ship's communication systems had been hijacked to play "Why Can't We Be Friends" on repeat, and their weapon systems were being used to create what humans called a laser light show. "Sir," his science officer reported, "the humans are using our own shield frequencies to. He trailed off, mandibles drooping in disbelief as the mighty blade-shaped dreadnoughts began arranging themselves into what appeared to be a synchronized swimming routine. Commander Chen's hologram reappeared, now holding what appeared to be a dessert menu. "You know what your biggest mistake was? Assuming that just because we're physically weaker, we must be inferior. Here's the thing about humans, we turned being squishy and vulnerable into our greatest strength. We had to get smart to survive, had to learn to turn the tables before they turned on us." The human fleet executed a maneuver that should have been physically impossible, creating a perfect three-dimensional grid around the Cian forces. Each human ship pulsed with energy that made the Cian's most powerful weapons look like children's toys. "Your ships are now fully under our control," Atlas announced. "We've taken the liberty of redecorating. Hope you don't mind the new entertainment systems, they only play Earth documentaries about extinct predator species. Educational, don't you think?" The main course. High Admiral Zexthor, terror of 3 spiral arms, stood frozen on his command throne as his mighty fleet performed an involuntary rendition of what humans called synchronized swimming in space. The mighty blade-shaped dreadnoughts, once symbols of Cian superiority, now moved like participants in an aquatic ballet. "Atlas," Commander Chen called from her command center, "let's show them what happens when you underestimate humanity. Initiate protocol, Darwin's revenge." The seemingly primitive human vessels suddenly began to transform. Their metamorphic hulls flowed like liquid metal, revealing forms that looked like they had evolved specifically to counter Cian technology. Each ship now resembled a perfect counter-predator, their designs incorporating everything humanity had learned about Cian weaknesses. "You see," Chen's hologram addressed the Cian fleet, "while you were busy playing Apex Predator, we were studying the true meaning of evolution. Adaptation isn't about having the biggest teeth, it's about becoming whatever you need to be to survive." The lunar base, now fully revealed, began launching waves of what looked like mechanical insects scaled up to terrifying proportions. The Cians, who had never developed an immunity to being creeped out by bugs, responded exactly as humanity had predicted. Entire squadrons of fighters broke formation at the sight of what appeared to be giant space wasps. "Sir," Zexthor's tactical officer reported, his voice cracking, "the humans, they're not just controlling our ships. They're rewriting our weapon system's base code in real time. Our plasma cannons are being converted into what they call disco balls." The space around Earth had become a testament to humanity's twisted sense of humor. Cian dreadnoughts fired rainbow-colored beams that spelled out, "Just got served," in multiple languages. Their fearsome battle cries were automatically translated into various takeout order confirmations. In the kitchen, Chen watched with satisfaction as Project Switcheroo reached its culmination. "Atlas, how are our guests enjoying their main course?" "The Cian fleet's vital signs indicate a collective existential crisis, Commander. Their biological readings suggest they're experiencing what humans call a complete meltdown." The transformation of Earth's defenses continued. Orbital platforms that had appeared powered down now revealed themselves as nodes in a vast quantum network. The refugee ships heading to Mars turned around, their civilian disguises falling away to reveal carriers laden with technology that made Cian weapons look primitive. You know what the really funny part is? Chen's hologram appeared again, this time seated at what looked like a chef's table. We could have just destroyed your fleet the moment you arrived. But where's the fun in that? We wanted to make sure you understood exactly how thoroughly you'd underestimated us. Zex Thor, watching his mighty hunting fleet reduced to performing what humans called the YMCA, finally found his voice. What are you? Oh, we're just the species that turned being prey into an art form, Chen replied casually. While you were evolving to be bigger and stronger, we were evolving to be smarter and more creative. You learned to hunt, we learned to innovate. The human fleet demonstrated this point by executing a series of maneuvers that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Their ships moved through space like dancers, each movement precisely calculated to demonstrate superiority while maximizing the psychological impact on their would-be hunters. Atlas, Chen commanded, show them what happens when you bring teeth to a tech fight. The AI activated what humanity had dubbed the reverse Uno card protocol. Suddenly, every trophy in the Cian ship's display halls transformed into holograms showing moments from Earth's history, scenes of humanity overcoming challenges, adapting to threats, and developing the very technology that was now humiliating the galaxy's most feared predators. Your entire empire, Atlas explained to the stunned Cians, is built on the assumption that physical superiority equals dominance. But you never stop to consider that true superiority might look very different. While you were celebrating your hunting prowess, humanity was turning the entire solar system into one giant trap, specifically designed for you. The quantum entanglement grid around Earth pulsed with energy, creating localized time distortions that made the Cian ships appear to move in slow motion. Their mighty weapons, already transformed into light show generators, began playing a greatest hits compilation of humanity's favorite dance tracks. Now, Chen addressed the thoroughly humiliated Cian fleet, we could continue this demonstration, but I think you're getting the point. The question is, what should we do with you? Zex Thor, watching his empire's reputation literally dance away in space, realized that the natural order he had believed in his entire life had just been turned completely upside down. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey had turned out to be something far more dangerous than any predator, they were innovators. As the Cian fleet hung suspended in humanity's quantum web, Chen prepared to deliver the final lesson about why underestimating humans was always a fatal mistake. The kitchen timer was about to ding one last time, and dessert promised to be unforgettable. Dessert is served. In the gleaming trophy hall of the Fong of Destiny, High Admiral Zex Thor's carefully curated collection of conquest mementos flickered and transformed. Each trophy now displayed a holographic lesson about humanity's history, not as prey, but as survivors who had turned adaptation into an art form. You know, Commander Chen's hologram appeared beside the stunned admiral, we've been studying your kind for centuries. Every predator species that ever tried to hunt us taught us something valuable. The difference is, we learned. You just collected. Around Earth, the Cian fleet hung suspended in a web of quantum fields, their mighty ships reduced to unwilling participants in what humans called the greatest dance show in the galaxy. The broadcast was being transmitted across 3 spiral arms, ensuring that every species who had ever feared the Cians could witness their humiliation. Atlas, Chen called out, let's serve dessert. Show them what happens when you push humanity too far. The AI's avatar materialized, now wearing a chef's hat. With pleasure, Commander. Initiating protocol, just desserts. Suddenly, every Cian database began receiving downloads, massive archives of human history, culture, and scientific advancement. They watched in horror as their own historical records were annotated with human analysis, pointing out every tactical mistake, every missed opportunity, every assumption that had led to this moment. You see, Chen explained, pacing through the trophy hall as if giving a lecture, we could have just destroyed your fleet. But that wouldn't have solved the real problem. The problem isn't that you hunt, it's that you never bothered to understand what you were hunting. The quantum grid surrounding Earth pulsed with energy, and thousands of human ships emerged from what appeared to be tears in spacetime itself. Each vessel demonstrated technology that the Cians couldn't even begin to comprehend. "Commander," Atlas reported, "the Cian Empire's Central Command is attempting to mobilize their reserve fleets." Chen smiled. "Show them feed clip alpha." Throughout Cian space, every communication channel began broadcasting footage of their mighty hunting fleets being transformed into an interstellar dance troupe. The message was clear: humanity wasn't just capable of defending itself, they could replicate this humiliation anywhere, anytime. "Now," Chen addressed Zexthor directly, "we're going to make you an offer. Not a surrender, an invitation." The Admiral's mandibles twitched in confusion. "An invitation?" "Yes. You see, humanity has a different approach to dealing with potential threats. We prefer to turn enemies into allies. It's more interesting than just collecting trophies." The holographic displays in the trophy hall shifted again, now showing possibilities: Cian and human ships working together, joint scientific ventures, cultural exchanges. A future where the hunters learn to be something more. "Your empire has spent centuries proving you're the apex predators of space," Chen continued. "We spent that time proving we could be whatever we needed to be. So here's your choice: continue being predators and face extinction, or evolve and join us in exploring the galaxy's real possibilities." Zexthor looked at his mighty fleet, still performing an unwilling rendition of Swan Lake in space, then back at the human commander. Why offer this? Because that's what humans do. We turn enemies into friends, problems into opportunities, and limitations into stepping stones. Being prey taught us that survival isn't about being the strongest, it's about being the most adaptable. Across the galaxy, other species watched in amazement as humanity demonstrated a power greater than any weapon, the ability to offer mercy from a position of absolute superiority. "Atlas," Chen commanded, "release their ship's control systems. Let them make their choice freely." The Cian vessels stopped their involuntary dance performance. Their weapons remained transformed, a reminder of humanity's technological superiority, but they could move freely again. "So, High Admiral," Chen's hologram faced Zexthor, "what will it be? Will you continue playing the apex predator in a galaxy that's evolved beyond that? Or will you join us in writing a new chapter of galactic history?" The Admiral looked at the human commander, then at the displays showing possible futures. For the first time in his life, he saw something more interesting than hunting, he saw opportunity. "We accept your invitation," he finally declared, his voice carrying across all channels. Chen smiled. "Excellent choice. Atlas, prepare the celebration protocols. It seems our kitchen is about to become a dining hall for interspecies cooperation." As the quantum grid powered down and the first tentative communications between former predator and prey began, Chen looked out at the stars. Humanity had just accomplished something unprecedented. They had turned the galaxy's most feared hunters into students eager to learn a new way of existence. "You know what they say," she mused to Atlas as they watched the beginning of this new era: "if you can't beat them, teach them. And if you can beat them, teach them anyway. It makes the galaxy a much more interesting place." The kitchen timer finally fell silent, and a new recipe for galactic peace began to simmer. As it turned out, the final frontier wasn't space at all, it was the capacity for change, even in the most unlikely of species. Across 3 spiral arms, the message was clear: humanity's kitchen was now open for business, and everyone was welcome at the table. They just had to be willing to learn new ways to feast.